I want to be upfront and say that Chappell Roan has really said nothing wrong at all. Like, she has been as discerning as possible and has never said, by the way, everybody wants to accuse her of saying, oh, you're voting for, you're not voting for Kamala, or you're aiding genocide, or you're aiding Trump. It's like, well, first off, Kamala is aiding and abetting genocide. AP reported today that Netanyahu is putting together a plan to literally block off humanitarian aid from Gaza, to literally starve out. This is the words, by the way, these are the words that the AP used to fucking sugarcoat this story. That's how you know how fucked it is. To starve out Hamas militants. You know who else it's going to starve out? The hundreds of thousands of women and children and innocent men who are in there who aren't Hamas militants. A majority of the population. I hate Bill Maher so fucking much. His voice, somebody mentioned it earlier in the chat, but was talking about how it's the smugness that gets him. I genuinely feel it's like that Always Sunny clip. It's smug aura mocks me. Like he is the epitome of a certain class of incredibly insulated white entertainer that hasn't had any actual problems for 90% of his life and doesn't understand what regular life is like for most of it. He's actually pretty emblematic of like just the general political ruling class, really.
To mark the October 7th anniversary, we must launch a campaign to educate young Americans about the Middle East. And the way I'd like to begin that process is...
You know what would be a really good way to begin that process? Learning about the Nakba. I didn't know about the Nakba until I had to do research on the history of anti-Semitism and the history of Jewish immigration to Israel, which came at the expense of the Muslim people who were already living there, who were literally pushed out of their homes, had all of their homes and land and lives shattered and taken from them, which kicked off Palestinian uprising and conflict. Like, why don't we, are you going to talk about the Nakba? I wonder if you're going to talk about the Nakba, Bill. Or maybe the Intifadas. Or maybe the Israeli snipers who would shoot Red Cross members and medics and protesters and children. Or maybe the tens of thousands of children who have died in Palestine. Surely we'll talk about the anti-Muslim extremism from Israeli soldiers. Surely we'll talk about the most moral army in the fucking world, going through ransacking, rummaging, and taking fucking TikTok videos like they're on spring break as they are destroying people's lives and huddling them into fucking tiny little, basically, you've all heard it before, open air prisons. Do you think he's going to fucking talk about that? I wonder, Bill, are you going to talk about,
by addressing an open letter to Chappell Roan. Now, to those viewers who aren't watching this while also looking at their phones, let me explain. Chappell Roan is not the name of one of Trump's golf courses. She's actually a great new recording artist who, like a Hezbollah pager...
Dog, this shit sucks. What? That fucking blows, dude. Like, outside of him being a smug asshole, that fucking sucks. What?
She seems like a Gen Zer who can be reached, because I saw her on TMZ say...
Like, obviously, fuck the policies of the right, but also fuck some of the policies on the left.
That sounds like something I would say.
What policies on the left do you disagree with? Because I'm sure it's shit like protecting trans kids. I'm sure it's shit like border reform, and which by the way are not mainline policies on the American left, because they are still looking to reach out to the right and compromise on these things that will affect millions of Americans that are still voting for them because we don't have a fucking choice. But I'm just curious, what policies on the left do you think are bad?
There's a whole history of the Middle East that you and your fans aren't hearing about. So why don't you let me be your spirit guide through this?
Spirit guide. What? I don't think you can come up with a better example of why exactly he's not qualified to talk about this shit than him using indigenous terms as a punchline, as a very insulated from any kind of conflict, any kind of consequences white man.
Since you may have no idea who I am, considering that when this show went on the air, you were barely old enough to be told you were in the wrong body.
Again, just casual transphobia. Who the fuck believes Bill Maher is a leftist? Like, this is something I constantly, it's the same thing with Destiny, where because he will say, like, fuck Trump, somehow Bill Maher gets lumped in with the left, where people are like, oh, well, you're fine if Bill Maher says this, or Bill Smug. It's like, no, I'm fucking not. I do not claim him. The left does not claim Bill Maher. I don't know any leftists who claim people like fucking Bill Maher. He did the trans joke, which, by the way, Chappell's not trans. I don't even think Chappell's, like, identifies as non-binary. As far as I know, she's just a lesbian. And correct me if I'm wrong there, but she is a queer ally. Like, she makes songs about drag queens. Like, every time she goes to a new town, she, like, reaches out to the local drag community to perform with her. Like, I realize, Bill, that you probably get assailed a lot online by the queer left for good reason, but that doesn't make everybody who doesn't like you or disagree with you trans.
And I didn't learn about the Middle East from TikTok, which is a Chinese company whose totalitarian government would just love to have America's youth hating America. That's some of that algorithm stuff you say you...
Jesus fucking Christ, dude. Again, what separates Bill Maher from the average brain-cooked modern conservative? He's like 2 seconds away from talking about adrenochrome.
I know you're moved by what you see on there. We all are, the dead Palestinian bodies. But it's odd that your generation didn't seem nearly as moved by the Jewish bodies on October 7th.
The entire fucking world has spent the last year dedicating money and time from, by the way, politicians across both aisles who just maintain their hardline support for Israel, no matter what, through thick and thin. We have to support Israel, as they have launched a undeniably genocidal fucking campaign, not dissimilar to the one America launched after 9/11, over the people who were killed at October 7th. But let me hear how he thinks that the 2,000 people killed 1 year ago justify the slaughter of 40,000 innocents. I am so curious, Bill. The moral justification you could possibly fucking have for that.
Of so many young women raped at a music festival, make it a little personal? My guess is that Gen Z hearts are hardened by the propaganda you see on TikTok, which likes to call the Jews colonizers.
Oh, shocker. From the Wikipedia article, there's an entire Wikipedia article dedicated to it, by the way. Sexual and gender-based violence against Palestinians during the Israel-Hamas war. In February, UN experts cited at least 2 cases of Palestinian women being raped by Israeli male soldiers. Palestinian men and women, boys and men, have also been raped and subjected to torture, and in some cases, the torture has led to the victim's death. From a news article on 972 magazine, more horrific than Abu Ghraib. Lawyer recounts visit to Israeli detention center. Which, by the way, again, the Israeli army can put anybody they suspect of being a Hamas militant in a detention center. Right now, people in Gaza have no human rights. That is the kind of thing that Chappell Roan is using her platform to try and spread awareness of. That is the kind of thing that Bill Maher is completely fine with, because, as people have mentioned in the chat, he doesn't see Muslims as human beings. Arab also testified to his lawyer that Israeli guards sexually assaulted 6 prisoners with a stick in front of the other detainees after they had violated prison orders. When he talks about rapes, I asked him, Mohammed, you're a journalist. Are you sure about this? Mahaj recounted, but he saw it with his own eyes, and that what he was telling me was only a small part of what was happening there. Multiple media outlets, including CNN and the New York Times, have reported on instances of rape and sexual assault at Zaytaman. In a video circulating on social media, a Palestinian prisoner recently released from the detention camp said he had personally witnessed multiple rapes and cases in which Israeli soldiers made dogs sexually assault prisoners. From CNN. Strapped down, blindfolded, held in diapers. Israeli whistleblowers detail abuse of Palestinians in shadowy detention center. This is Israel's Abu Ghraib. Look at this. Look at this fucking picture. With the knowledge that 40,000 civilians have died. With the knowledge that this is how the prisoners are being treated. Men and women. And you better believe children too. From what we're being told is the most moral army in the world. And you want to fucking take an issue with a pop star using her platform to say, hey, maybe this is fucking wrong. Maybe we shouldn't be supporting this. Maybe our tax dollars shouldn't be going to this just because it offers us some tactical advantage. QETP history will vindicate us? Yeah, maybe. Like, I have no doubt that history will vindicate everybody who talks about what's going on and what Israel is doing. That doesn't help the fucking Palestinians who are dying right now. Like, what we just saw, what was it, 22 Palestinians killed when Israel bombed a fucking school? What is history vindicating us help the people who are dead and dying right now? The 80 plus people at that school who just got their fucking arms and legs blown off. The people who are starving. And here's the thing, is that, and I talked about this months ago, and this is why I don't cover a lot of this shit, because Hassan covers a lot of it, a lot of other leftists cover it, and it gets to me so bad. It fucks me up to constantly be thinking about it. Because it's not just one thing. It's not just that Israeli snipers are taking pot shots at children in the streets. It's not just that Israeli drones are fucking bombing kids who are trying to get their belongings back from their caved-in houses. It's not just that everybody has to shit in the street because they don't have any working plumbing. It's not just that there are no safe hospitals or schools or places where anybody can take refuge that Israel won't fucking bomb because they can just say it's a Hamas refuge. It is all of those things coming together in a constant cavalcade of pain and misery and destruction where people do not have proper food, proper water, proper bedding, proper health care. People are getting their limbs blown off, being blown apart all the fucking time. And if they're not fucking picking apart pieces of their own children that have been bombed so that they can lay some remains to rest somewhere, then they're getting blood infections. Then they're getting gangrene. Then they're getting any number of other fucking pathogens and illnesses from dehydration, from lack of proper care, from lack of water, from malnutrition. And Bill Maher, when was the last fucking time Bill Maher had to get food for himself that wasn't fucking delivered on a silver fucking platter? When do you think that was? When was the last time Bill Maher cooked a goddamn meal for himself? But he's going to sit here and lecture his fucking smug internet atheist ass audience about Chappell Roan just being a dumb little Gen Z who doesn't understand shit. So let's fucking go back to listening to Bill Maher educate us on the crimes of the on why Palestinians deserve to die.
Calling Jews colonizers in Israel is like calling Native Americans colonizers here. It's ridiculous.
If the Native Americans were assisted by other governments in pushing people out of the land that they had settled and been on for generations and generations, stripping their lives from them, and perpetuating a continual colonial project whereby people could literally just be grandfathered in. Like people don't understand the extent of the Zionist, and by the way, it's not Jewish, it's Zionist. Make that fucking distinction. It is not Jewish people doing this, because there is no limit to Jews of all stripes, of all creeds, ethnic, Orthodox, whatever, who are against Netanyahu and the Zionist colonialist project he's perpetrating. But for decades now, and this is something we've seen on social media. Like, this is the kind of thing that happens all the fucking time, where an American with maybe dual citizenship, who's never been to Israel, will want to go live there. And the Israeli government will take Palestinian housing and just say, this isn't yours anymore. This belongs to an actual Jew, somebody who's not even from the fucking area.
Chappell, did you know that for 2,000 years, Palestine was like an Uber driver with a 3-star rating? Nobody wanted it. And there was never any Arab country called Palestine. It was an orphan province. And if you ask people what they thought about it back then, they'd say it gave them the ick. But after World War II, and after the Jews were very nearly wiped out by an actual attempted genocide.
See, so Palestine and the Arabs gave people the ick. Ha ha, laugh line. But the Jews, they faced an actual attempted genocide, which is true. Netanyahu moles plan to empty northern Gaza of civilians and cut off aid to those left inside. Palestinians a week to leave. Leave to fucking where? Leave to where? They don't have anywhere to go. Leave the northern third of the Gaza Strip, including Gaza City, before declaring it a closed military zone. They have nowhere to go. So where the fuck are they going to leave to before cutting off all aid inside this area? Like, he literally, you can tell by the grave tone he gives to the completely true struggle of Jewish people in Europe who were forced into labor camps, into execution camps. But when it happens to somebody else, then they didn't ever have a claim to that land. Nobody ever wanted to live there. It gave people the ick, which is fucking bullshit, because the Gaza Strip is like a massive tourist spot. Like, Israelis are always fucking going there because it's right on the goddamn ocean, or the sea, sorry.
They decided it was time for their historic homeland to be an actual country, so that for once they could defend themselves. And the UN...
That's not fucking true. That's not how it happened at all. Again, this was a Zionist project that began before World War II, 1917. Geopolitical entity that existed between 1920 and 1948 in the region of Palestine under the terms of the League of Nations Mandate for Palestine. After an Arab uprising against the Ottoman Empire. See, again, literally, before World War II, he is just fucking making shit up to make the story as sympathetic as possible. Competing interests of the two populations led to the 1936-1939 Arab revolt in Palestine and the 1944-1948 Jewish insurgency plan in Mandatory Palestine. The United Nations partition plan for Palestine to divide the territory into two states, one Arab and one Jewish, was passed in 1947. The 1948 Palestine War ended with the territory of Mandatory Palestine divided among the state of Israel, the Hashemite... the Hashemite Kingdom of Jordan and the annexed territory on the West Bank of the Jordan River, and the Kingdom of Egypt, which established the All-Palestine Protectorate in the Gaza Strip.
And voted a country for each of the indigenous peoples. One side agreed to that. But the Arabs had a slightly different proposal. They said, how about we keep it all and wipe you out?
When did this start? Just out of curiosity. Oh, used to describe the events of the 1948 Palestine War, as well as the ongoing persecution and displacement of Palestinians by Israel. The Nakba is the ethnic cleansing of Palestinian Arabs through the violent displacement and dispossession of land, property, and belongings. Interesting. As a whole, it covers the fracturing of Palestinian society and the long-running rejection of the right of return for Palestinian refugees and their descendants. Interesting. 750,000 people were expelled from their homes or made to flee through violent means, at first by Zionist paramilitaries, and after the establishment of the State of Israel by military. Dozens of massacres targeted Palestinian Arabs, and over 500 Arab-majority towns, villages, and urban neighborhoods were depopulated. Wait. The 6 Days War, that's... 6 days that changed, 1960, that's what he's talking about. The Palestinians observe 15th May as Nakba Day, commemorating the war's events as one day after Israel's Independence Day. 1967, following the 6 Days War, another series of Palestinian exodus occurred. This came to be known as the Naksa, the setback, and also had its own day, 5th of June. The Nakba had greatly influenced Palestinian culture and is foundational symbol of the current Palestinian national identity, along with the political cartoon character Handala, the Palestinian Kafaya, and the Palestinian 1948 keys. Wow.
Yeah, that wouldn't fly in Gaza, although you would straight off a roof.
Again, he is literally doing the exact same fucking thing that every right-winger on Twitter loves to do. Say like, oh, well, if you love Middle Easterners so much, why don't you go over there? They'll kill you. What fucking separates him from any dipshit chud in Elon's fucking mentions right now? Fantasizing about a queer woman's death right now for advocating against the genocide of 40 fucking thousand people.
These are the oppressors. And when you make it all about Israel, you take the pressure off of...
Yeah, no, when you make it about Israel using them to kill civilians, when you make it all about Israeli war crimes, using tax dollars, as we just saw, to use animals to sexually assault prisoners. Chappell, you're taking the pressure off of the real bad guys here. This is the exact same frame of mind. It's not surprising he would go after Chappell. This is the exact same frame of mind all the fucking dumbass resistance libs came at her for. Because you apparently, there's a class of people who are unable to hold two ideas in their head at the same time. That you can think one side is worse than the other, but also that the other side is doing bad shit too. Do you want to talk about the history of ISIS, of the Taliban, of Hezbollah? Do you want, Bill, do you want to talk about how U.S. intervention in the area and in the Cold War led to the foundation of those groups? Oh, I don't think you do.
Sure, this is who you want to throw down with? Meryl Streep.
In what fucking world is saying women and children don't deserve to be blown apart 40,000 at a fucking time with my tax dollars? In what fucking world is that saying, yeah, I'm okay with killing 600 people for headscarves in an entirely different fucking country? No, literally, Elena Connor, Muslims are a hive mind. That's what he's fucking saying.
And you're advocating for a place and a culture you would never want to live under. Gender may not be binary.
You would never want to live under. You are advocating for a culture you would never want to live under. What he is explicitly saying there, what all of the Zionist supporters who are supporting him saying there, that Muslim culture does not deserve to exist. Now, mind you, they're not talking about ISIS or Iranian leadership or Hamas or whatever the fuck he's trying to make it sound like. What they are justifying is the wholesale slaughter of innocent civilians. They are saying the culture that created this people. doesn't deserve to exist. The innocent people who are part of that culture don't deserve to exist. The queer people who are part of that culture don't deserve to exist. This culture cannot be improved because, according to Bill Maher, it is intrinsically so evil and debilitating that the only solution is what Israel's doing. In so many words, this is what the Zionist argument comes down to. Advocating for a final solution because they do not see Muslims, Arab people, as human. This is no different than the same vitriolic bullshit rhetoric that Ben Shapiro throws out about Arabs. They only know how to destroy things and live in sewage. It is no different. And you know what? It is no fucking different than the same invective Nazis used against the Jews to put them in camps. Saying that these people are inherently evil, that they cannot create anything good, that no matter what happens, they all deserve to die. And this is what happens when that gets fucking repackaged and sold to audiences. Like this is a dog whistle for Zionists. This is something that every Zionist, colonialist, fucking Michael Rappaport dipshit hears and they just nod along. Like they know the words to the music. Like they're just like, yep, yep, yep. That's all this is. It is like, you know, anytime a QAnon person talks about adrenochrome, you know, it is something on the inside group. You know exactly what they're saying. You know the rest of the song. You know the speech that he's about to give. Because it is justification for genocide.